We have a distinguished member of the traditional rulers here. Your Majesty, do you want to ask a question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. You will permit me to sit and deliver my question. I have listened carefully to both speakers and also to the discussants. And I noticed there is clearly one missing link that has not been mentioned by any of them. At early colonial rule, there was nothing like a country called Nigeria. We had what they refer to as city-states. And these city-states were governed by traditional rulers. Later in the life of the colonial rule, also, houses of chiefs were established in the constitution of the country when we have become Nigeria. Those monarchs that negotiated with the colonial people to let us come together as Nigeria were illiterates. But nowadays, there are so many traditional rulers that are very well educated. And I'm trying to find out, since none of you mentioned any roles for the traditional rulers, I would like to know, of course I'm not surprised, at least they might have forgotten the usefulness of traditional rulers in their own countries. But at least one of them is from Britain, and there is a House of Lords in Britain. I don't know what role do they play in running Britain along with people of the House of Commons. Now, there is no role assigned to traditional rulers in Nigeria. And we are talking about strong institutions. Don't you think traditional rulers can form a very strong institution? Since there are so many of them, and you can find any professional in their group. Thank you very much.
Well, sir, part of the battle for democracy within the United Kingdom has been a battle to reduce the power of the House of Lords. And first stage of that was to remove the power over taxation from the House of Lords. The second stage was to remove the power of the House of Lords to block other legislation. And the third stage has actually been to remove most of the hereditary members of the House of Lords themselves. And following in a compromise in 1999, we now have a situation where the 400 or 500 hereditary peers, members of the House of Lords, elect 92 of their member to sit in the House of Lords. I could, but I won't tell you why it's 92 and not 90. Now, all the other members of the House of Lords are simply appointed for life, for their own natural life, on the basis of their own merit. Does the House of Lords play a role in British society? Yes, it does. It is there as a revising chamber, and it has lots of people of experience in it. So it is valuable, and it's for every country, each country in the world, to determine how to bring those people in to their system of governance rather than government. But I'm absolutely clear that the only people who should make laws or have the final decision on laws may be those who've been elected and can therefore be removed if they get it wrong. And that goes back to this fundamental of democracy. Democracy involves the possibility or the probability of change. And the reason why people a century ago and before that were on the streets in Britain against the House of Lords was that however bad they were always there, the same people, until they died. And that's not acceptable.
Well, my country is a republic, so there are no traditional rulers in Ireland. But we had a visit from a traditional ruler to our country in the last year. Her Majesty the Queen of Great Britain and Northern Ireland visited the Republic of Ireland, and it was one of the most successful events in terms of reconciling Irish nationalists with people of British heritage and bringing Irish people together. And I think that if she had been an elected president of a united Britain, she would not have had the same impact as she has had as a traditional ruler. Because people do respect the past and people do respect tradition, and tradition has an emotional appeal that the contest of democracy doesn't necessarily incarnate in quite the same way. So finding a way to express that is something that needs thought. But I think it's also important, probably Nelson Mandela might not have been quite a successful leader in South Africa if he had not come from a traditional ruling family. He had a certain dignity about him that he'd acquired over years, watching his parents and his parents' parents, and he was able to command a certain respect simply because of his presence, which had to do with his traditional role. On the other hand, if you look at the history of monarchies throughout Europe, you will also learn that there have been some pretty appalling people who have been traditional rulers. So you can't generalize, really. It depends very much on the individual. But tradition is something that does help us to come to terms with the future.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming towards the end of our proceedings today. I'd like to call upon His Excellency the Governor to come and make some concluding comments.
And while His Excellency is coming, it is our pleasure to let you know that indeed this audience today is a very quality audience, cutting across people from all walks of life. Your Excellencies, let's inform you that we have over 200 students at various levels of education who are part of this audience today. We have them from the University of Port Harcourt, Rivers State University of Science and Technology, Rivers State Polytechnic, Bori. And indeed, we have civil society organizations and all that. Your Excellency, you may now...
Well, before the Governor of Rivers State comes on, he earlier told me to go back to school because I said that Jack Straw is a former member of Parliament. His Excellency said, I'm still in school, I've never left school. Jack Straw, incidentally, is the honorary president of the Blackburn Rovers Football Club. Yes, sir. See, I'm still in school, sir. And he's still a member of Parliament representing Blackburn. Quickly, sir, before you round off, you mentioned something about citizens' action. And Professor Ben Nanen, you also said, when would we have our own Tahrir Square here in Nigeria? Sir, the reason why they had Tahrir Square is because they have stable power supply. They have infrastructure in place. I used to think that the regime under Mubarak was repressive. I found out that repression is when you don't have stable electricity supply. Because now, with the advancement in technology, if you don't have that in place, then you don't have a natural flow of information that informs the people. And you know information is power.